Namaskar, Satyakal, Adab, good evening, and welcome to everyone at the Motherhood Club talk show. We are meeting everyone after a long, long gap. But I am so happy that we are going to meet like this today because with me today is a young girl all the way from Singapore who is passion and perseverance personified. She is Anaya Sehgal, a footballer, brand ambassador India Khelo Football, and at a very young age has achieved so much for herself, surely purely basis her own passion, determination, and will. So welcome Anaya at Motherhood Club. How are you doing?
Hi, thank you for hosting me. I'm well. How are you?
Very well. Thank you for being here. So, Anaya, we normally never read profiles of people who come on our show because we prefer that they tell us more about themselves as you yourself know yourself the best. So, why don't you tell our friends who Anaya is? What does she stand for?
So, I'm a Indian girl who's currently living in Singapore. I'm 16 years old, and I'm very passionate about football. It's been a big passion of mine since I was a child. I've trained a lot for it. I've been a part of a lot of clubs. It's been a big part of my school life as well. I'm currently studying here in Singapore at an international school, and I'm also playing with Lion City Sailors, which is a club in Singapore's Premier League, which is the highest level of women's football in Singapore. It's called the WPL, Women's Premier League. And to me, football is more than just a game. It's a place for me to express myself, have fun, make friends, make lifelong friends, and yeah, to me, it's just a wonderful game, and it's just a big part of my life.
Amazing. Thank you. So, Anaya, you are almost nearing to be an adult in a couple of years, right? Let me take you back into your childhood days, right? Did you always wanted to play football, or was it that your parents guided you that okay, here is a game where you can kick the ball, how it is normally for little children, or it is something that you just develop the passion towards it?
So actually started playing football when I was 4, and actually at first, when my parents, they don't really have much. They didn't know much about football. Neither of them had played football. Obviously they played a little bit in their youth, but they weren't really familiar a lot with it. But I just started playing at 4, just like in the park with a few family friends, and every Sunday. But I really like found a connection with the game, and I really felt like it was something that I really enjoyed, and so I started to become more serious about it. When I was, I think, 5, I joined my first club, which was just down the road from where we lived at the time, in Hong Kong. And yeah, I've just never looked back. Obviously, now it's probably one of, if not the biggest component of my life. And yeah, it was never something my parents forced me to do or something that they wanted me to do. Obviously, they've been very supportive of my journey, and they've never, like said anything to hinder me from growing in my game. But I think it's always just been like I just fell in love with the game. I don't think there's better words to say.
So what do you like about the game? It's one single ball. There are almost what 10 to 11 players chasing a ball, and you're just kicking the ball, right? So
Yeah.
what did you find so fascinating about this game? Not today, but of course as a child, because what I'm trying to derive out of this is that how does a young child actually become so focused?
Mm.
Where today children are unable to figure out what do they want to study or what is it that they want to do. What what was it so different about you that you knew that this is it, this is my passion?
So when I was a kid, I did play quite a few sports. It wasn't just football. Through my primary school, I played a lot of sports. Football was always the main focus. It was the only one that I trained outside of school for. But I played a lot of sports. I was genuinely a very athletic kid. I loved sports. I was always, like during lunch times in primary, all the girls would be like sitting on the side. They would be, like discussing something, and I would be with the boys in the gym playing basketball or football or whatever. But I think what really stood out to me about football specifically, and why I've been able to devote so much time and effort and so much focus to it, is that I really feel like it's just like a game where, it's a combination of a lot of things. Like there's some sports where skill is very important. There's some like running where stamina is what matters. There's some sports which are purely mental. There's some which are focused a lot on like like talent and technique. But I think football blends everything. You need a bit of everything. You need skill, you need speed, you need stamina, strength, mentality. And that's one of the things I love about the game. There's so many things to work on. And as a kid, it just, obviously, if football's a big sport, a lot of people play it. And like, I really can't describe why it appealed to me the most. Now that I think back, I start to understand more. But I think as a kid, it was just out of all the sports I played, I just connected the most with this one. And, as time went by, I realized that, I can actually make something out of this. I can, go far. So, might as well devote myself to the game.
Wonderful, amazing. I mean, so much clarity at a young age is absolutely commendable. So sports happened, football happened to you. You tried other sports, right? Now, typically, in a very traditional old school thought, if I see, and when we were growing up, we always saw football being a very masculine game, right? Those were the kind of biases or prejudice that people normally have. And especially being an Indian girl, right? Did you face any kind of challenges because you were an Indian towards the game, not otherwise? That, whether the Indian girl will be able to meet up the stamina, and especially in the foreign land.
Um, I don't think like there were any like major incidents where I felt marginalized because of my ethnicity and my nationality. I was living in Hong Kong for most of my childhood until I was 12, and it was a place where there were quite a few Indian people. My school always had a lot of Indians. Even at my club, there were a couple of Indian girls. So I never really felt that there was any like backlash or any like, oh, is she going to be able to keep up? Obviously, I was very young at the time, so what was going on behind the scenes, I don't know. But to my knowledge, I think I was brought up in a very place that was, very open, supportive, um, and like not to brag or anything, but I think I was fairly good. So by being, a player who could who could level up to the competition and hold herself firm. It just showed to everyone that despite being from like from India, and I could still hold myself up there.
Okay, wonderful. That's very nice to hear that. So, you know, as a student, as a child, it is absolutely imperative that you also focus on your education, right? And I'm sure parents across the globe would want that the children do well in their academics also. How has that been a journey for you? And how have you been able to balance between your academics and your passion, which is football?
Yeah, so I completely agree with you. Academics are a major part of any child's life, and especially in women's soccer, which has not yet reached the level where the men's game is at. So, you can't just ditch your academics and just go into soccer. You need to have a plan B, a backup. And in today's world, you really need to have like a good academic level because that's very important. So for me, I've obviously tried my best to maintain, good scores and good grades in school while also playing at a high level for football. How I do this is I try to really like, plan my time well. Um, Recently, I've started like every day, making on a whiteboard a list of all of the things that I need to do and dedicating specific times. With school as well, I'm currently in grade 10, um, so my 10th year of school. And obviously, with academics becoming a bit harder each year, it's important that I devote enough time to that. So yeah, there are some times when maybe I'll have to miss like one practice because I have a test the next day, and then there are also times when sometimes I do have to go to practice, and it means that I'll have a bit of less time to study, but I don't think it's a hindrance. And in my opinion, it actually makes me focus better, because by having it, really, I think sports really helps out cut out distractions. Like, a lot of teens will spend a lot of time scrolling on social media, and because of my tight schedule, I have to really like cut down on the things that don't matter, like social media, and really focus on the things that do, like studies and football and quality time with friends and family.
Okay, that's very interesting. I mean, that's not what you normally get to hear from teenagers or almost adults like you. Great. So, good scores, good game happening over there. What is the role of your parents in your journey so far? And how do you see them as, do you see them as motivators, as your coach, as your influencer, in addition to being your parents? Or what is their role in your journey on the whole?
So I think I'm really blessed. I have great parents. They're very supportive. Um, they're smart to understand that there are like challenges in the game, and I need to keep my academics up. So they've always encouraged me to do well in that. But they've always supported me in the football side of things. My dad, when I was playing in Hong Kong at a club called Hong Kong Football Club, he became a coach there, so that he could be more hands-on and understand better how the game was going and how I was doing. So he even got a license to coach, which was good. He's been very supportive. He, I think, is like, he's my biggest critic, but he's also my biggest supporter. Like, after he goes to every game, and he'll give me feedback. If I didn't play well, he will tell me that you didn't play well, but it's always with the intent to help me get better. It's never like, like, oh, it's never like I don't feel demoralized. And my mom as well, she's been a great source of motivation. She's always there for me. She'll always help me out with whatever I need. Like, if I have a cramp in my leg, she'll be the first one to get the oil and like massage it. Or I think I'm really blessed. My parents have really helped me in this journey, and yeah, I don't think it would be possible without them.
Wonderful. So, for all our viewers, firstly, thank you for joining us. And I'm sure you're enjoying every bit that Anaya is sharing with us. At such a young age, there is so much of clarity, what she wants to do, how she's balancing her academics and her sports career. And, just to repeat for everybody, she's playing for one of the best clubs in Singapore, the Women's Premier League. And I'm sure, Anaya, that does put in a lot of pressure also, while you are enjoying the game. But, sometimes you have a good game, sometimes you don't have a very good game. How do you deal with that pressure? Because for a sports person, there is no way that you can just go say, okay, fine, like, I don't care about it, or get too fussed up about it. You really have to have that mindset to be able to accept that, okay, today I did very well, in the next game I was okay, or in some games you might not really score. How do you deal with that pressure? Or is that really a pressure on you, or that kind of motivates you to do even better?
So I think that obviously there is a bit of pressure playing with some players who are double my age. And I'm playing for one of the better teams now in the league, so obviously there's a bit more pressure from that. I try to really like focus on my mental health, and try not to get too frustrated if I have a bad game. Obviously, because football is a big part of my life. When I do have a bad game, it does frustrate me, and I'll give myself, a day or two to just be like, okay, like I played bad. But then I always come back that, okay, I played bad, but here's what I need to work on. Here's the things I need to do better. I try not to get too down on myself, because in football and in any sport for that matter, confidence is a big thing. And if you're too hard on yourself, you start to lose confidence, and then you're stuck in a cycle where you just will never get out of. So I really try to, like tell myself that, okay, if I've had a bad game, it's okay. The next one, I'll do this different. I'll do this better. Um, and yeah, there is pressure, but I try my best to cope with it. And at the end of the day, I remind myself that I'm fortunate enough to be in a position where I can enjoy to play this game at a high level. So I just need to make the most of it, and yeah, just enjoy every minute that I'm on the field.
Absolutely. I think to have the attitude of gratitude to what you have is, one of the best ways to keep yourself grounded and also deal with all the kind of pressures or the noise that you may actually hear, because I'm sure you would also experience the kind of challenges that somebody may say something to you that, okay, you didn't do well, or this, the criticism is good, but when the criticism leads to someone being overly critical or being cynical about it, does that bother you, or you have a mechanism to kind of cut the noise out and just be absolutely focused on your game?
So yeah, I think criticism. Every athlete gets a bit of it. There's people in the crowds. It could be coaches. It could be parents of other people. It could be your teammates sometimes. Um, and I think I'm fortunate to be in a team that's quite supportive. And even when mistakes are made, in the moment people might get heated, but eventually, it's all like we're all doing it in a good manner. We all want each other to improve. But yeah, sometimes I do get criticism, and obviously it hurts a bit because you're trying your best at the end of the day, and not everyone's perfect. No one's perfect, so some mistakes will happen. But I just try to let it slide and take a deep breath and remind myself that like um, this isn't the end of the world. It's just one mistake. Like, let me focus and do better on the next shot, the next pass, the next dribble, whatever. So yeah, again, I just try to stay calm, take a deep breath, and just stay present in the game.
Wonderful. Such amazing guidance from this young girl, that stay in the present, focus on the game, and figure out what you made, what are the kind of mistakes that you've made, learn from them, and move ahead in life. And of course, do get impacted to a certain extent that it helps you to better, but bounce back and don't just let it impact you for good. That's very nice, and I thank you for these wonderful insights that you've shared. Moving ahead, you're playing for the best club in Singapore, but you're also the brand ambassador for India Khelo Football, which is an entity in India supporting the girls from the humble background or the underprivileged background and encouraging them to play football. How has that experience been for you, and how did you, get to be there with them?
So yeah, like you said, India Killer Football is an organization that helps promote talent in India, and basically, the experience has been good. We've collaborated on a project recently where we launched a fundraiser to raise funds for underprivileged girls in India who want to play football. And it's been going well. And the funds were raised by a lot of people in Hong Kong, Singapore, and India. And yeah, and I think IKF or India Killer Football is doing a very good thing, because I think in India, um, while there are a lot of programs now for football, and there's a lot more recognition to the athletes who play the sport. Obviously in India there's always going to be cricket or hockey, which are the more like watched or more popular sports. But I think football is really having a growing fan base in Singapore, especially women's football. And I think people are starting to realize that the quality of football is quite high, and the players are quite good. And so I think it's important that there's organizations like this which are helping people to realize that, football is like a genuine, thing. Players can or students can, do football while not compromising on their academics. There's just a lot of benefits to it. And so, yeah, I think my partnership with Indica Football has been great. And yeah.
Okay. So what are your plans going forward? What is it that you are aiming at, both academically as well as in the game of football?
So, like I said, I'm in my 10th grade currently, studying at a international school in Singapore, which means that I have just over 2 years left for school here. And I'm playing with a team, Lion City Sailors, in the Women's Premier League in Singapore. So, my plans for the next 2 years is to really, establish myself, and be like one of the best young talents and best players in the women's league here. And I'm, inching towards that goal. I'm training hard and, just hoping to make my mark. Academically, obviously, I will be going to college once I graduate from high school. And, obviously, that's going to be another big change. I am trying and hoping to play in the US college soccer at, a D1 or D3 or maybe even D2 level. So yeah, those are the plans for like, the maybe like nearer future. Beyond that, it would be like a dream of mine, a dream come true to play professionally. And there are quite a few leagues now for women in the world that are professional. But like everything in sports, there's no guarantee. So I'm still trying to keep my academics high. And lastly, obviously, it's a dream of mine to represent India on the footballing stage. Um, and yeah, that would just be like something I've wanted since a child to come true. So yeah, those are my plans for the future.
Wonderful. And I'm sure you will certainly play one day for India. So, as far as I understand, football in India, especially when it comes to women football, it's quite behind men. And I think that's what you also mentioned. That's the case globally also. What do you think can be done to get the women football to the level that each of you would aspire it to be? Do you have any thoughts or do you think about it?
Yeah, so I do think about it, and there's obviously reasons why it's behind. Women's football has started a lot more recently. The men's World Cups have been going on since 1930, while the women's only started in 1991. So almost more than a 60-year gap. And men have, like, in most sports, the men's game is still a bit ahead. Now there we see sports like gymnastics, some track and field events where like women and men's are equal. Some sports where women have started to surpass the men. And I think in football, the game is growing. I think people don't realize that, like, some progress is still progress. And while it might not be as rapid and fast, people do need to realize that this takes time. um, there are initiatives around the world to help better promote this, opportunities. I can even see the difference now as a 16-year-old versus like when I was 10. In those 6 years, there's already been a lot of change. The Women's World Cup is getting quite a bit of coverage now. A lot of teams around the world are becoming professional, which is that they're paying their athletes. And even in like Singapore, I've seen that the teams competing in the Women's Premier League, they have good, training facilities. They have good equipment. Like we have access to gyms. It's quite a good experience and a good atmosphere. In terms of what I think needs to be done, obviously, like, you know there needs to be more exposure. People need to start knowing more about the game. I think a lot of people still think that, women's football, like, oh, it's just irrelevant, and um, just there's no point to watch it. But people need to realize that the game is growing, and yeah, I think that it's on a upwards trajectory, and as long as there's support and encouragement from people, it's gonna take off.
Absolutely. I think the acceptance is the key word over here. That if the game, when they see the game, they actually realize that women are equally excelling. And I think that's not just for sports, but that's for, any and every aspect of life that women unfortunately have got that opportunity much later. And sports is no different from that. But what I see and what I understand about a few games where women are playing, they're doing exceptionally well. So, there is no reason that they would not excel. They are, to my mind, women are more mentally strong. And that is a very, very key skill, I think, when it comes to sport. You cannot be weak in any form, be it emotionally, mentally, or physically. So, Anaya, would you remember any incident where you felt that you were becoming weak and you needed to kind of bounce back. So, who helped you? Did you help yourself? Or you needed support? Of course, parents are always there. But how did you manage a difficult situation, if at all you experienced any?
Yeah. So I think with every athlete's life, there are times, extended periods, it can be up to a month, 2 months, 3 months, sometimes even a whole season, where they just don't have the best season. There could be a culmination of factors, stress, school, something going wrong in their personal life. And obviously, I think I've had, my share of struggles sometimes. Experiences where like as a culmination of factors, I've just not been able to perform to my best for a sustained period of time. I've never had like maybe like a big injury or something that kept me out of the game or not playing my best for a very long time. But I have had times where I've just felt like my game, like for maybe like a month, was just off it. I think maybe last year, sorry, 2023, um, I had like a rough patch where I just was struggling a bit with the game. And obviously, that led to a lot of like issues for me because, like I said, football is a big part of my life. And without it, like I don't feel complete and I don't feel like I'm enjoying myself as much. But like I was able to bounce back. I think what helped was starting to like realize what were the reasons why I wasn't performing and working on those. Like whether it was something with my health or whether it was stress or whatever, just focusing on that. And yeah, my parents were supportive, my friends were supportive, my teammates were supportive, and so that just really helped bring me back. And I think 2024 overall, I had a quite good season. I was successful with my school team as well as my club team. And yeah, heading into 2025, I'm hoping to do even better. And yeah.
Sure. So we have a question for you in continuation to what I asked you. How do you get yourself back from that rough patch? One is to, of course, accept, which you said, but are there
Yeah.
any techniques or ways that Anaya stands up and says, hey, I'm back?
So I think the first thing to do is obviously, like I said, establish what the issue is, and if immediate action needs to be taken for that, then fix that. Like let's say one of the reasons that might be affecting your performance is you have like a weak ankle, and that's leading to injuries. So the first thing to do would develop a plan to work on your ankle, strength and flexibility and mobility. I think in terms of bouncing back, it's mostly from the mental side. People often think that if I just train really hard and I just really work on everything, I'll be able to bounce back. But I think it's more mental. It's about telling yourself that, I'm not giving up because I know that I'm strong enough to get through this. And I know that this is the thing that I love doing. So I will not quit on it. And it's just reminding yourself that, you are doing this for a reason. And, there's no point in quitting. And yeah, in terms of techniques I use, I think the first one would be just like I said, accepting the issue, and then from there, just like reminding myself that this is just a tough time. It will pass. You will get stronger. You will get back into your confident groove. Just reminding yourself. Obviously, you need to keep training as much as you can, like without injuring or affecting your health. You need to keep that up. Keep working hard. Work on your nutrition. Work on your, go to the gym, go running, train for football. And I think if you just have that strong mindset, and if you have a growth mindset, meaning that you accept that change is possible, you don't feel fixated and stuck that, this is it. Like, I've lost my confidence. It's all over. You have to believe that change is possible. And I think from there, you can really get back into your confident groove.
And wonderful. Absolutely correct. I think that's the way forward. Okay, so this question is, has been going on in my mind and it's coming from the audience also. In the beginning, Anaya, you mentioned that, you're so much into football and you're striking a good balance between football and your academics. And spending your time on something which is really worth your while and which is something more meaningful and constructive. Having said that, in current time and age, with social media, friends, parties, social engagements, and so much and more, distractions are definitely there, right? Do you miss all those things, or is that also a part of your life, but in a moderate manner? And if not, do you miss it?
Yeah, so I think the key thing about being a student athlete is balance. I don't think it's good for you to just completely cut out downtime, times with friends, with family, having fun, like going out to dinner with your parents, things like those, because those are equally as important. And they're important because if you're training all the time, you're going to get burnt out and you're going to, start to, like I said, have a bad time.
Burnout.
I do, obviously I do hang out with my friends and I do go to social events. I obviously spend time with my family, but it's all in balance. Like there have been times when I've had to compensate. Like if I've got a game, then and my friends are hanging out, I've got to say, no, sorry, I can't go. I have a game, or even if it's practice. I think I like maybe compared to the average person, I might hang out a bit less with friends, but I do hang out with them, and I think that's very important because those are people that will you'll probably know for a good portion of your life. And like I said, family time is very important to me. I have a younger brother. I love spending time with him. Sometimes we work out together, and yeah, I think it's totally important to have balance. I don't think it's healthy for you to completely cut out the social part of your life because it is important to have your support system, which would be your friends and family, and it is important to have fun and have downtime. And yeah, I think it's just balance is the key thing, and if you can achieve that in your life, then you're doing a great job.
Absolutely, wonderfully said. I think the key word here is balance, and to have that discipline, and to not have the go overboard on one aspect of your life. Because I think anything, if you do it over and over and over, and make it too excessive, then also it kind of becomes very dull and boring. And you mentioned when we were talking about the women's football game, you spoke about, you shared the year when the women's football started and when the men's football started. How important it is for a sports person to also know the theoretical part of the game. One, of course, you're practicing, you've learned the techniques and everything, but the history, the key developments, the academic part of it, how important it is for a player to know about that, and how much time do you spend on that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've never been asked this before, but I think that's a really good question. So when I was a child, I was just crazy about football. I read maybe like close to 50 books, little autobiographies about a lot of the world's big players, which I still have with me. I read a lot of encyclopedias about football, about players, the history of it, positioning, the psychological part of it. I had a book that explained all like the subjects that you take in school, but from a football standpoint. So like psychology would be the mental part of it. Biology would be like how your food digests different types of foods, like fats or proteins or carbohydrates. And I've been really passionate about the history of football too. You know, like I said, like I mentioned earlier, I read a lot when I was a kid, and I still continue to do so. I try to watch, highlights of games, recent clippings, or even past games, videos of my favorite players, because it's very important that you expose yourself to not just the physical side of the game, but also the mental, tactical, and technical side of the game. Like when you see players and you see like positioning, the tactical part is very, very important. A lot of coaches stress this to know when the right time is to move, to know the right time to drop and ask for the ball, to know the right time to shoot, to pass, to dribble. These are all things that will make you a better player. And some players, like you could spend hours in the gym, you could be doing everything on the field, but if you're not training your mind as well to be sharp, decision making is a big thing. In soccer or in football, you have to make decisions quick, and you need to be making the right decisions. So when you get the ball, you already need to have in your head what you're going to do with it. And I think watching games helps with that, reading the history, reading how players have overcome challenges, it's not going to make you a worse player. Maybe it won't, you won't see direct, effects of maybe reading history, but it's gonna, if nothing else, it will help. It will, teach you more about the game. And I think if you're crazy passionate about it, then those things will come naturally and they won't be something that you'll have to force yourself to do.
Absolutely, very well said. And I think in order to, sometimes by looking at a technique, if you are also trying that and you're unable to do so, if you watch, you're able to kind of get a hang of it and perhaps, dwell more on it. Very well said. So, I know you're a student, you have a lot of other things to do, so I'm not going to hold you back. But you did mention, that you raised some funds for India Khelo Football to
Yes.
support the young girls to be able to play this game. Would you like to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so this is a project that we launched in February, and the concept of it was that for every goal I scored in the 2024 season, people could pledge a certain amount and donate money, which would all go towards funding underprivileged girls in India who want to play football, and for them to have the ability and the access, to play the sport. One of the reasons why we started this is that I really feel that there's so much talent in India, but sometimes not all of it is actually recognized and brought to, like, a stage where people can show their skills. And that's the case in every country, but the more platforms there are for players to showcase their potential, especially a lot of the underprivileged players, because if you read a lot about players, you will realize that so many of them came from very, very humble backgrounds. A lot of the Latin American players, even some of the European players, African players, most of them come from very humble backgrounds. And, coming from a humble background really does make you hungry to win and hungry to succeed, because you know that that's something that can help you uplift you in the world. And so I think in India, and especially with girls, because I think with boys already there's quite a few programs in place to help fund. I'm sure there's a lot of scholarships and resources available, academies and such. But the women's game is still growing, and so it's important for people like us who are in a position to be helping, to help the people who need these opportunities and would like to showcase their skills and would like to play, but maybe, and unfortunately they can't afford to do so. So I think this is one of the most important things. And I love the fact that I'm able to give back to the game that I love, and especially for girls, because I think female empowerment is so important in this world. And yeah, I think that's really, it's just a project that means a lot to me.
Absolutely, so true. And I think sports is one way to instill confidence in women, and it kind
Yes,
of also
absolutely.
gives them an identity, which at times gets taken away from them. So that's an wonderful idea by the team India Khelo Football. And for everyone out here who's watching us or who would watch this conversation at a later point in time, as Anaya mentioned, that they are raising funds to support young girls from India who come from the humble background to be able to sustain and play this game. It's like a fundraising for them. So please, in case you would be keen, we have shared the link in the live chat, and in case anyone is keen to have the link again, can reach out to me and I can share that with you. We will also share it on our platform at Motherhood Club. And I have my last question to you, and it comes out from what you said, that a lot of amazing sports person, they come from the humble background, right? Perhaps because of lack of opportunity, the hunger, the drive is very deeply instilled in them. Do you think that having privileges in life takes away that hunger, passion? Although you are an exception because you definitely, have a comfortable life, you have all the privileges and everything. But do you think that this is the case? Or is it because those players get highlighted because of the struggle? the pain that they go through, or is it the other way around?
Okay, I think that's a good question, and I think that having privilege, might make you a little less hungry to succeed because at the end of the day, you still have food to eat, still have a bed to sleep in. But I think that people who really, really want to succeed, privileged or underprivileged, they will work hard and they will put in the effort. And I think the reason, yeah, I think, yeah, a lot of underprivileged players do get highlighted, but in total respect to them, um, they they do amazing things. They really come from nowhere to become great people, and great sports people. And so, yeah, I do think that sometimes having privilege might make you a little less hungry, but I think that people who really want to succeed, they will have that hunger nonetheless. And I think that at the end of the day, to be playing at a very high level, these big names we see on TV like Messi or Ronaldo, they've all made it there because they just worked super hard for it. There's no other substitute for hard work. You could have as much talent as you have, but without hard work, it'll get you nowhere. And I think that the people who've been able to make it up, on the big screens, male or female, some of the big female stars of the world, like Marta, she came from very humble backgrounds in Brazil, and so these players, they really, really work hard. And so it's important that there's opportunities for them, and that their drive to succeed is recognized, and that they are helped along in their journey so that they can make it big. Yeah. So yeah, to summarize, to answer your question, I think that players who want to make it big will put in the hard work to make it big.
Absolutely. There is no better thing than working hard in addition to your talent. And that is why we titled this conversation today as Passion and Perseverance, which is who Anaya is. So, Anaya, before we let you go, if you would like to convey a message to young players or the youth, one, and if you would like to say anything to your parents or your brother that you haven't said till now.
Okay, so to the young players of the game who are passionate about the sport, just know that you can make it. You can, anything is possible. If somebody tells you, "Oh, you're too small, you're too weak," you can fix those things. You can get better. There's no substitute for hard work. So no matter how talented you are, you have to make sure that you're working hard. And yeah, I just think that anything is possible. Believe in your dreams, believe that you can make it because you can. And yeah, I think like, just have fun at the end of the day. Football is not something that should make you feel stressed out. You should feel like you're getting less stress as you play the game. So make sure you're having fun. For all the young players, just don't get too stressed out when you're a kid. Don't get too stressed out about tactics and things like that. Those are all for when you're a bit older and learning the more complex aspects of the game. When you're a young player, just make sure you're having fun, getting as many touches on the ball as you can. And then as you start to get older, when you're hitting your teens, start to think about the things like gym, running, fitness, mobility, which is, I think, something that a lot of players ignore. Flexibility and mobility, and nutrition is very important, hydration. And yeah, and yeah, you mentioned any message to my parents or brother. Yeah, of course, I'd like to thank them for being so supportive of me and helping me in my journey, which would totally not be possible without them. And lastly, of course, I'd like to thank you for hosting me on this lovely show. And I really had a great time talking about my experiences. And yeah, thank you to you as well.
Thank you. And we learn a lot from you. And what we get to hear from our audience is that indeed that's a very noble initiative that has been started by India Khelo Football and yourself. And yes, it is very important to be humble. You being wished success for all your future endeavors, and that you have a very matured and intelligent approach towards life. And I think to have clarity at a young age has definitely set the tone for your future. I think in anything and everything that you're going to do, because I think sports really helps you understand yourself. It kind of guides you, motivates you, because sports is one area of life which kind of makes you experience success and failure, sometimes together, sometimes one after the other. And there is, you can't just say that, okay, today I succeeded, so I'm a success forever. I think some of the great players also have had their shares of ups and downs, but I think what is important is to kind of lift yourself up and say that I can do it and I will do it. So thank you so much, Anaya, for taking out time for your busy schedule, and wish you all the very best for 2025 and for the upcoming season. And we hope that we get to interact with you that day when you play for India.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Have a nice day,
Great.
everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone, for being around. We'll keep having such conversations with such lovely people. Stay tuned with us. Take care, and signing off for today. Bye bye, everyone. Thank you, Anaya.
Thank you.